It's a pleasure for me to be joined by Deven Ghelani, who is Director of the Company Policy and Practice, who was actually one of the architects of the Universal Credit System. Deven, before we get onto the policy, can we agree that the system is in need of some reform?
Hi, Laila. Great to be on. The system is in need of some reform. I think the biggest problem we've got is the burden of paying for everything, whether that's people on benefits, older people, the state, is falling on fewer and fewer people. So you need more people who are fit and able to work. That's definitely one of the problems we've got. There are quite a few others, but let's kind of park it there and think about whether or not these changes are actually going to get us there. And as you said, I've been involved in one of the biggest reforms of the welfare system of the last decade, universal credit. One of the biggest problems and one of the biggest lessons I learned, well, two really. One is that the devil's in the detail. I look forward to reading what reform we put forward tomorrow. I remember the work we did on universal credit was a weighty tome, and I think that was the only reason we were able to get reforms like that through Parliament and without any, not without great difficulty.
I think no one could take the time to read it. It sounds very long.
Short papers are always good in policy, but if you want to get them through, you need to do your homework.
Of course.
So that's a lesson I'd pass on. The other big thing is I think the cost, trying to push universal credit through while making significant cuts to the benefit system was, in my opinion, a big mistake. It made reforming the system a lot harder, and it created quite a lot of pain, and it made the reforms much harder to get through because people don't see, we're reforming the system in a better way with universal credit. They see the fact that money's being taken out of their pockets at the same time. So trying to do these reforms, my advice to reform would be focus on getting these reforms right first before trying to make any kind of cuts in the system. So think about what you want the reforms to do. I mean, I'll say I read the piece in the Telegraph, and where I think Robert Jenrick's absolutely right is being in work is definitely better than being on benefits. And I think sometimes we gloss over that fact. And then also I think kind of parking people on benefits without seeing them again, which the state is prone to do. I've seen it before in other types of benefits. There's nothing moral about that. So I think offering people the support they need, investing in talking therapy, physiotherapy, as we've said, are all positive. But I think trying to push these reforms through and make cuts without making sure the reforms that you want to put in place are actually working, are actually a better system.
What do you mean by that exactly? He's proposed reforms, and you're saying making sure the reforms work. Well, yeah. Because as I see it, we're facing a system that's expanding faster than the economy funding it. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a welfare state should be a safety net, not a lifestyle. It shouldn't be a default position. And right now it is for many. And the more the state expands, the more money it's going to cost. And the more it traps people in dependency instead of giving them a ladder out. And that's what reform wants to do. I mean, I know when my sister passed away, the worst times in my life, and I was offered, take this antidepressant, and it was almost the impetus for me to do more because I couldn't bear just being there. I think it would have crushed me. And so I feel that perhaps people do have to get out there and partake in life to overcome it. And how do you convince people to do that?
So I think that there's as I said earlier, there's agreement that kind of parking people on benefits without expecting anything of them. There's nothing moral about that. I think the point I'm trying to make is making sure we get these reforms right. So everyone agrees that the PIP assessment, the test by which you determine whether or not you get this level of support or not is broken. I think the TIMS review under this government is also saying the same thing, right? Everyone wants to reform it. The hard part is getting these reforms right in a way that, one, ensures that people who should be getting the support need to be getting it.
Of course.
And ensures that those people who, should be supported and getting the extra support they need get that support, and that support is effective. And trying to just take money away from people without making sure that second part of that is right. So we are actually helping younger people into work or people with disabilities into work. If we try and make these reforms without getting that part right, we're at real risk of just creating more misery. And I think one of the, I've been talking about this a lot. So why are teenagers, more younger people being going on to personal independence payment? And we talk about it like it is a lifestyle issue. I think you just mentioned that kind of as you were speaking earlier. I think one of the bigger problems that we have to acknowledge is some of these children have grown up, or young people, have grown up in a period of austerity. So when they were children, some of the support that they might have had through the state, like talking therapies, like physiotherapies, were less likely to be available because the state itself was shrinking, the support available to people was shrinking. And that might be, we may well be reaping what we sow to a certain extent. So that's my biggest concern, is that, without getting these reforms right, making sure they're effective, and just taking money away. I can give you plenty of examples where, for example, the introduction of the benefit cap, I think, has actually done more to push people onto disability benefits than it has to get people into work, because if you're on disability benefits, you're exempt from the benefit cap. So there are unintended consequences here. So everyone might agree with that point around, it is right to expect more of people. It is right to want people to move into work and get the support they need to do that. But there are some significant unintended consequences here if we don't make sure that the reforms are delivering on what we all want.